Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May Brahman protect us. May he guide us and give us strength and right understanding. May love and harmony be with us all. Om peace, peace, peace. Good evening. Nice to have you all with us. We are in the middle, I believe, on the talk on faith and self-surrender, correct? Mm-hmm. And your first line is, what was the first line, the main thing?
In the Gita.
Was it in the middle of a paragraph?
No, beginning of a paragraph.
Okay. So I don't have a marker. Oh yeah, okay. Very good. Go ahead.
In the Gita, we find, having cut asunder this firm-rooted ashvata with a strong axe of non-attachment, that goal is to be sought for, going whither they do not return. That the children of the Divine Mother have sometimes done this, we find from the lives of great saints like Ramprasad and Kalamakanta. But we also find that they preferred to remain in whatever condition the mother placed them. Complete resignation to her will. They merely wanted to remember the mother in all conditions, whatever be those conditions in which she placed them. In whatever condition you place me, O Mother, be it besmeared with ashes or surrounded with riches, at the foot of a tree or on the king's throne, all these are good if only I do not forget thee. Ramakrishna used to say, the cat carries the kitten, sometimes places it on a well-made bed, sometimes on a heap of ashes. But the kitten has no other cry but mother, mother. Mother knows where to keep the young ones. Whatever she does is for our good. The devotees never want anything. They do not even want liberation, but only the right to serve Mother.
That's certainly a wonderful sentiment to try to keep in mind. We always seem to want to pray to get something, but Ramakrishna reminds us that we should really just pray to have devotion, to have more and more devotion and love for God, rather than praying for this, that, or the other thing, or a better this or a better that. And I think we did read a little of this, but that's good. We're going back just a little bit. We mentioned how Swami Vivekananda was a wonderful example of being able to be anywhere and to be perfectly at home. And it didn't matter whether he was the guest of someone who lived in a very simple setting like Mrs. Blodgett here in Los Angeles, or the Mead sisters, or in a great mansion like at Ridgely in upstate New York. He could always be completely at home. And he could go back to India and wear a loincloth, or he could come to the Americas, and the devotees would try to get him to wear nice clothes and things, and he would dress however they felt he should dress. So he was very accommodating to everyone, and he would be accommodating with the food, he would be accommodating with the dress, accommodating with the accommodations. So it didn't matter. He always just accepted whatever it was that he was going to whatever situation it was that he was going to be in. And it's a wonderful example for us. We often always think we know best, but really it's Mother knows best. When I was a kid, there was a TV show, Father Knows Best, but in this case, we're going to say it's Mother Knows Best. All right.
Mother, through her sweet will, can destroy everything and build everything anew in no time. Why say she can? She's done it and is doing it even now. This is not child's prattle, but fact. There's no why in her actions. She is of infinite power and beyond all cause. She's ever gracious to her devotees, and hence they're everything, past, present, and future. I am the self, O Digakesha, existing in the heart of all beings, in the beginning, the middle, and also the end of all beings. In whatever condition she places us, that is good for us. Nothing to feel sorry for it. But then let this be our prayer to her, that our mind be ever fixed on her lotus feet, and that even if we should forget her, she may not forget us. That she may give us discrimination and dispassionateness, for it is only through discrimination that one is not affected by the miseries of this world. So our one duty is to remember the Lord always. Oh, my savage mind, remember Rama always. What is the use of 100 other thoughts? O mouth, repeat the name of Rama always. What is the use of vain talk? O ear, hear the life story of Rama. What is the use of hearing sweet music? O eyes, see Rama in everything. Renounce everything else but Rama. This is real spiritual practice. And if one can do it, then one is saved. Otherwise, it is impossible to get over life, death, and suffering. We are all children of the Mother. There's no fear for us. We shall rest satisfied wherever she places us. We cannot say what is good and what is evil. That's beyond our reasoning. And so we have to pray, you are beyond good and evil. Therefore, take us also beyond them. We cannot say by what way and how she will take us, but this much is certain, that she will take us. The Master said, nobody shall remain without bread. Everyone will have his bread. Though some may have it early in the morning, some at noon, and some at night.
Yeah, so patience, 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 forbearance, forbearance, forbearance. So yes, this spiritual practice of always remembering the Lord. So the trick there, of course, is to try to connect everything to the chosen ideal or to God in some way, so that you can remember the Lord all the time. And of course, another way to do it is to simply get into the habit of repeating the mantra at all times. But also, we can try to train ourselves to see everything connected with the divine in some way or another. Really, a lot of religious practices boil down to that, ways of trying to remember God throughout the day. So, the liturgy of the hours, or the Muslims 5 times a day to pray, that's one way to do that. Your whole day is centered around this timing. And so that's one way to keep your mind on God, is because your timing is always set to when is the next prayer time, and how do I work that in to my schedule. I have to stop what I'm doing and go do the prayer. So you can't just go through your day without thinking about that, or you'll miss the time. Another way is to think that God is consciousness, or the goddess is consciousness, if you prefer. And so everything is imbued with consciousness, and so everything that you see as imbued with consciousness. Of course, this is the state that the Vijnani gets himself into, where they actually literally see everything imbued with consciousness. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, he said that, I see that you're all just pillows filled with consciousness. Gustav Fechner said that in his spiritual experience that he saw everything imbued with spirits. The rocks, the plants, the trees, it didn't matter what it was, everything was imbued with spirits. Other people might describe it as everything has the light of the Atman glowing within it. So different types of spiritual experiences are there for different people. It comes in different fashions, but all of them literally experience that. And so we can try to imitate that by trying to remember those ideas throughout the day, even if we're not actually experiencing it. Today's imagination will be tomorrow's realization. So you try to train yourself to see consciousness everywhere. You know, even the physicist can learn to train himself to see consciousness everywhere. If you see something falling down, you see gravity doing it. Why is gravity doing it? It's because everything in the world is really one, and it wants to be one. So everything is falling together by gravity, because everything in reality is the undividedness and things of that nature. So you can try to train yourself to see God in all things. All right, let's continue here.
Knowledge of Brahman and such things, not for ordinary people. For them, the Lord's words, to those whose minds are set on me, verily I become ere long, O son of Pritha, the savior out of the ocean, of the mortal samsara, for the goal of the unmanifested is very hard for the embodied to reach. The knowledge of Brahman is difficult for him who has not got over the consciousness of mind and body. But then, because the knowledge of Brahman is beyond the reach of such, it is not that they should become hopeless. In this connection, an incident in the life of Sri Ramakrishna flashes before my mind. One day I had been to Dakshineshwar. Oh, there were many others there also. One of them was the great pundit, a great pundit. Sri Ramakrishna asked him to explain Vedanta. For more than an hour, he explained Vedanta to the great satisfaction of Sri Ramakrishna, everybody else. But then said Sri Ramakrishna after this, well, all these things, however, they do not appeal to me. You're philosophizing. Knowledge, knower, known. Oh, all this is good, no doubt. But what I like is I and my mother alone exist, and there's nothing else. These few words he expressed with such great feeling that everyone present felt it for the time being. All the conclusions of Vedanta seemed to pale before this idea. The master's idea seemed to be so easy to comprehend.
You know, going back to the first part of that paragraph where it says, knowledge of Brahman and such things is not for ordinary people. For them, the Lord's words, quote, to those whose minds are set on me, verily I become ere long, the savior of the ocean of the mortal samsaras. For the goal of the unmanifest is very hard for the embodied to reach. We were talking about how you might try to explain Hinduism to your friends. This was at USC, and so I was talking to a group of Hindu students, and of course they've got classmates that are probably not religious at all, and if they are religious, they've probably come from a Judeo-Christian background. And so how do you explain it? And one thing, of course, that's very difficult for people that haven't been exposed to Hindu ideas is the idea of the various gods and goddesses, the deities, and so forth. Some of it seems very strange. And so I told them that they really have to talk about symbolism. If people have no idea about symbolism, that they're going to have a hard time understanding these ideas, and that God is infinite. And so how do you grasp the infinite? Well, it's like trying to grasp a ball that's infinite in size. Now, if you have a tennis ball or a basketball, it's easy to hold. Even if you have one of those exercise balls that's 2 or 3 feet in diameter, you can still reach around it and grab it. But if the ball were the size of a block, the curvature would be so slight that you couldn't grab it. There would be nothing to grab onto. And if it's infinite, then again, you can't grab onto it. There's nothing to hold on to. So God being infinite and able to do anything, God comes to us in various forms. And so that we can understand some of his aspects. Obviously, all aspects are there, but we have to try to understand them to our limited extent. So God comes in these various forms, both male and female forms, so that we can comprehend something and keep our mind on it. Otherwise, you can't keep your mind on something as vague as the infinite. There's just nothing there to grab onto. So the whole idea of the various manifestations of God, which are the various deities, are that they illustrate various principles, and that gives us something that we can visualize, something that we can relate to, so that we can have a spiritual practice. And so one might wonder then, what is all of the use of the philosophizing? Because, of course, that's what we do a lot here. We spend a lot of time philosophizing and going over various philosophies and studying them. Well, that's one way to keep your mind on God and to grasp the ideas about God, so that you eventually get to the point where you want the mother or God or whatever form of the divine you choose. That's all you want. And so the philosophizing is a way for us to get to that point, that we can really get to the point where we surrender. This is all about faith and self-surrender. The philosophizing helps us get the faith and get to the point of self-surrender. All right, let's continue.
The main thing is that you have to keep your mind fixed on God, whatever be the means. If that can be done, then our lives are blessed and won't be spent uselessly. Eating, drinking, we shall have so long as the body lasts. But Ramprasad, the devotee of Kali, says, "O my mind, worship Kali. Repeat day and night the mantra given by your guru. And lying down, think you're prostrating before the mother. Make sleep your meditation on the mother. While eating, think you are offering to Mother Shama all sounds that enter your ears are but mantras of the mother. For she, Kali, is in all letters. Going round the town, think that you're circumambulating the mother. Ramprasad declares that mother is in everything. We have to follow the teachings of such great souls as these, and we're sure to have devotion for the Lord's feet." This is what Ramprasad says, different from the knowledge of Brahman. Seeing God in everything, everywhere, in every action, and in every being, to work for the Lord, to know Him as the one object of our love, to love Him and give up all other attachments, and to have no ill feeling towards anyone. This is the easiest method to attain Him. Love, love. That is what is required. If we have it for Him, then everything will be added unto us. It's not that we do not know what is love. We're habituated to love wife, children, friends, wealth. This we have to direct towards God, for He is the one reality in this world which is ever changing. Everything else in this world becomes after sometimes stale, and even bitter. Love for Him alone is ever on the increase, and ever new. With respect to other objects, when one gets disgusted after some time. That's why Prahlada, the great devotee, says that deathless love, which the ignorant have for the fleeting objects of the senses, as I keep meditating on Thee, may not that sort of intense love for Thee slip away from my heart. If one gets such love for Him, there's no more delay for God realization. He even comes out of the pillar to manifest Himself to His devotee. Everything is a question of love. The more one loves Him, the more He manifests Himself in one's heart. He's the friend of the sincere and pure. He's ever in our hearts. But we fail to see Him because our eyes are directed to other objects. But for this, there would have been no delay in realizing Him. He's ever with us. We not go to any place of pilgrimage in search of Him. If we in all sincerely search Him for a moment, He comes to us. Oh, but who wants Him? Ours is mere talk. We do not want Him from our hearts. Such is the power of Maya that we fail to see the truth. So the Lord, out of His grace, has shown us the way out also. Those who are absolutely resigned to me easily cross over this Maya of mine. Surrender to me. There's no other way out. May the Lord, out of His infinite grace, hold our minds onto His feet. Let this be our prayer.
You know, it's often said that Brahman alone is real, and one of the direct disciples added, and everything is Brahman. And so that's the attitude we're trying to develop here. In the beginning here, when it was talking about Ram Prasad's attitude, that the mother is everything. Everything that we're seeing is Brahman, but it's manifest through the power of Maya as this universe. And that's what we need to remember. I often think that the Ramayana really illustrates this story rather well. If you think of the symbolism, here again I'm going to emphasize this necessity for understanding symbolism, the symbolism of the characters. So first of all, Sita is born out of the earth. You can't get much more graphic than having her plowed up out of the field to think that she is the manifestation of the mother goddess, the earth goddess. And Rama is descendant of the solar king. Well, this is generally the idea of the transcendent principle. So we have the male divine principle and the female divine principle. And when they're together, it's blissful. But how do they get separated? Well, we have to look at the symbolism of Ravana. Now, Ravana is pictured as a person with 10 heads. Now, you see, I think the Ramayana is based on some historical facts, but I don't think Ravana had 10 heads. So why did the storytellers tell us that Ravana has 10 heads? Well, this is what you might say of somebody that's extremely knowledgeable and egotistical, right? If he's so much into his head, if he's conquered all the scriptures and everything, all the sacrifices and all the ceremonies and every kind of knowledge you could possibly want to know, he's just got a lot of heads. But what happens with those heads? Well, he's also got a lot of ego. And he's also got 10 sets of sense organs. And he's letting the sense organs rule his intellect. So instead of having a discriminative faculty, somehow his sense organs have ruled over his intellect, and he wants things that aren't appropriate for him to have, like Sita. And so he goes and gets Sita anyway, and then the trouble begins. So what does this symbolize? Well, this symbolizes that if we think of this world as simply a sensual pleasure palace, that our sense organs are supposed to go out and enjoy things, then we don't understand that this universe is a manifestation of the Divine Mother. So when Sita is in the capture of Ravana, she's captured by the 5 senses. And so Rama has to get her back. So Rama fights the battle and gets her back, and then there's peace and bliss because the divine feminine and the divine masculine have been reunited. Now, at the end of some of the versions of the Ramayana, what happens? Well, the people of Ayodhya don't believe that Sita's maintained her purity. And so they ask her to go through challenges, and she goes through various challenges of fire, walks through fire and so forth. And even after that, the rumors don't cease. And pretty soon she gets disgusted, and she decides to go back into hiding into the earth where she came. Again, how much more graphic can you get? She comes out of the earth at the beginning of the story, and she goes back into it at the end. Why does she go back in? Because people don't see the divinity of the manifestation. And so she goes back into hiding. That's simply a metaphor for the fact that she's hidden in the manifestation, and we fail to see it. But if we can be like Ram Prasad and see the mother in everything, then we have united the male and female masculine principles in the world. So I think that's this weekend. We're coming up to what many people in India celebrate as Diwali, which is the celebration of the return of Rama and Sita to Ayodhya. And they celebrate it by putting lights all up and down the pathways. Why? You're inviting the divinities back into your home, which is really your heart. So each one of us invites Rama and Sita, or however you want to picture that divine pair, back into our hearts. And in this temple, of course, we'll be celebrating Kali Puja, because this is part of the Ramakrishna tradition, and that was the chosen ideal of Sri Ramakrishna. And she also represents that. And it's an interesting symbol. The Kali symbolism is sometimes not very well understood. But I think we mentioned this last time, that she has the garland of the alphabet around her neck, indicating that all sounds are coming from her. And she represents the infinitude of the universe, and that her blackness indicates that infinitude. You know, if you look out into the vastness of space, you see blackness and darkness. If you look out into the depths of the ocean, it looks black. So whenever we look at the infinitude, it seems to have a blackness to it. She represents time, the all-destroyer. And she has these two aspects. She seems very fierce and ferocious, and indeed she can conquer many demons, but she's also giving us boons and blessings. And one person described that by saying, if you see the infinitude outside of yourself, it's terrifying. And he used to say, lie down and look up at the sky, and then instead of thinking that you're looking up, think that you're looking down into the infinite, and it's terrifying. It's like you're going to fall into the infinite abyss. So if you see the infinitude outside of yourself, it's terrifying. If you see the infinitude inside yourself, it's blissful. And that's the secret of Mother Calling. You find the infinitude within yourself. All right, so that's a little prelude for this weekend's celebration. Now we have the next topic that we want to do is, which one is it, Atma?
The last one.
The last one in the book. Paths to Realization.
By Triananda.
All righty. Let's take a path to realization. That sounds like a nice one to go on.
Paths to Realization by Swami Triananda. Advaita, or whatever else you may say, everything depends on the mind. If a person can realize that he is the Atman, then he attains the Advaita consciousness automatically. But if there is the consciousness of mind and body, then there is duality. It is only when one gets the consciousness of being the Atman that duality vanishes, and the Atman becomes manifest everywhere. Is not all the trouble due to the ipadi or superimposed qualities? The ideas that I am so-and-so, or so-and-so's son of such and such a caste, I possess such and such qualities, this leads to duality. But if one can think, I'm not the mind, the body, or the intellect, but the Atman, which is pure, free from sin, existence, knowledge, and bliss, how can there be duality?
Yeah, of course, this is the crux of the problem, is that, and this is really, if you look at the myth of Adam and Eve, this is really what the myth of Adam and Eve is talking about. They've fallen into duality. First, they're in this bliss of the Garden of Eden, and then they're tempted to eat of the knowledge of good and evil, which is basically the tree of knowledge. So they're falling into duality. Now they see differences. They don't see oneness. And so they are then symbolically expelled from the Garden of Eden. So this is just a metaphor, really, for this initial mistake, you could say. The initial, it's not we don't call it a sin in Vedanta. We just simply, it's an error in our ability to see things correctly. But it's the natural state of seeing things in the realm of Maya. In the realm of Maya, you don't see things as oneness, you see them as something else. And as we've mentioned before, if you don't see it as undivided, you're going to see it as divided. If you don't see it as infinite, you're going to see it as finite. And if you don't see it as unchanging, you're going to see it as changing. And that's exactly the way we see this world. And so then we end up embodied in these organisms which have to survive in this environment, and so we're endowed with sense organs to go out and experience this realm of duality in terms of things that will allow it to survive and things that don't allow it to survive. And we're all descendant from things that have survived. If they didn't survive, then they didn't have offspring. So we didn't descend from them. We decided from things that survived. And so we're genetically programmed to survive and genetically programmed to see this world that way. I saw an interesting program the other day that talked about how we inherit things from our ancestors in ways that you might not have suspected. We usually think that the genes are the genes, and that's the way they are. but they did an experiment with mice where they programmed them to be afraid of the scent of almonds. They have a very good sense of smell. And so every time they presented the scent of almond, they would give it an electric shock. And that trait was passed down to the descendants of those mice. They picked up that trait. Now, it didn't change their genes, but it changed the way the genes were expressed. And so we are all descended from people that have had to survive, and we have a lot of multi-generational fears built into us, and multi-generational likes and dislikes built into our system. Our genes have been switched on and off in various ways in order to do that. So really, spiritual practice is about having to go against your natural inclinations for what your genes are telling you, and try to see the oneness in everything instead of the dualities. Now, of course, you still have to survive, but you know what happens with Sri Ramakrishna when he was in samadhi. Somebody had to actually feed him because he couldn't determine what he was supposed to be doing to keep the body alive anymore. And of course, people don't survive if they can't decide what the body's supposed to do. But in order to have any kind of spiritual realization, or even hints of it, we have to start chiseling away at that illusion of separateness and division and duality that is our natural way of seeing things in this universe. All right, let's continue. This was a long paragraph. We're in the middle of it here.
How can there be duality? But mere talk will not do. One has to realize it. Just as one is now rooted in the idea that one is so-and-so, similarly, when one becomes firmly established in the consciousness that one is the Atman, then only will there be the Advaita consciousness. It is to attain to this Advaita consciousness that one has to go through dualistic spiritual practices. For we are fixed in dualistic consciousness. We have to purify it gradually by establishing an intimate relationship with God. Now we are related with the world. This has to be given up, and relationship is to be established with God. If this relationship with God is established in its fullness, then duality will vanish by itself, and there will be left only God. This little I will vanish. This is how the Advaita goal is attained through upasana, worship, through dualism.
Right, so we use dualism in order to obtain this state of consciousness of oneness. So the dualistic practices that we use, as we mentioned in the previous lecture, it's a way for us to be able to grab on to something that is really not grabbable. You can't grab onto the infinite. So we find ourselves in duality, so we have to use that duality in order to get to the goal that we want. And so things that we see as separate from ourselves, we have to try to connect to the divine, connect to some sort of Godhead, to our chosen ideal. And so we offer the food that we're going to eat to the Lord. We grow flowers in the garden to offer to the shrine. We do our duty in maintaining our family because we see the divine in our other family members, and so forth and so on. So all of the various things that we do in the yogas are really ways of using things that we find in this realm of duality in order to reach a state of non-dual consciousness. Okay, let's go on.
There is another method of reaching the Advaita goal through discrimination, the not this process, denying everything now and here. At this very moment, denying that I am the body, mind, and the intellect in thinking that I am the Atman, which is existence, knowledge, and bliss. I do not cease to exist when the body falls away. Happiness and misery are mere states of the mind and do not belong to me. I'm beyond speech and mind, the infinite Atman, the one without a second. This is not a joke. Merely repeating this will not make us attain to the state. This impersonal worship is not for everyone. That's why the Lord says in the Gita, the goal of the unmanifested is very hard for the embodied to reach. But those who worship me, resigning all actions to me, regarding me as the supreme goal, meditating on me with single-minded yoga, for those whose mind is set on me, verily I become ere long, O son of Prita, the savior out of the ocean of this mortal samsara, the relative existence.
Yeah, so of course these are the words from the Gita, and the Gita is full of various spiritual practices on how to live in this world and to achieve states of divine consciousness. And of course it's a matter of preparation too. The ordinary mind can't take that kind of experience just out of the blue. And even Arjuna had a lot of trouble seeing the universal form of Krishna. It was overwhelming. And so that's another reason why we do spiritual practices, and that we have to practice patience, and we have to realize that the Lord will give us what we can handle when it's time for us to handle it. And so our spiritual practices are, again, we shouldn't be doing them just because it's not like trying to get something at the grocery store and you save up enough money for it or something like that. It's simply a way of life that you have to take on without the thought of doing it because you're going to gain something because you're so good at it, you know. And then your ego just gets in your way again, and you're trying to get rid of your ego. So if you think, I'm going to do all this spiritual practice and I'm going to realize the goal and that nobody else has been able to do, and then your ego's already in the way. So it's a very tricky matter. All right, let's see what he has to say.
The last paragraph is very long.
We're not quite at the last paragraph yet, are we? No, we got two more. Okay, 2 long paragraphs. Okay.
Well, this paragraph's very long.
Yes, it is. Oh, yeah, we only got like 2 minutes, don't we? We'll read a part of it.
If one can depend on him absolutely, one gets this help. He himself sets everything right. But is this also easy? For anyone and everyone able to do this? Not so. Even this is possible only if there is the grace of the Lord, or if one is so fortunate as to get the company of some great soul. Otherwise not. Mere talk will not do. One has to learn how to examine the contents of one's mind. These one has to purify and offer to the Lord. Is this so easy? If even after a lifetime's struggle one gets this attitude, one becomes blessed. On the whole, it's not a joke. Be it dualism or monism, to get truly established in any one of these is very difficult. The author of Bodhisattva, talking of the difference between Dvaita and Advaita, says, some worship him saying, I'm thine. Others again, as I am thyself. Though there's a slight difference between the two, yet the result of both is the same. The dualist says, I'm thine, and the Advaitist says, I'm thee. Yet the result is the same in both cases, namely the destruction of ignorance and misery. There's no difference as regards that.
All right, that's a good place to end. So you can take either path, but of course, since we're all in this realm of dualism, starting out with the dualistic path is usually thought of as being a lot easier. It's a lot more natural, because that's generally, it's easier to start the journey where you are than somewhere else. If you're trying to start a journey where you're not, you're going to find that there's a gap in getting to the goal. So Sri Ramakrishna used to recommend that in the Kali Yuga that it's good to have a dualistic practice. But he was very much also aware of the Advaita school and the goal of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, because he was in it so often. And so he knew all of the spiritual paths quite well. And so it's good for us to take his advice and realize that most of us are going to be best suited for some sort of path that involves dualism. And as I think I've made the analogy before, the four yogas can be likened to the four suits in a deck of cards in a bridge game, and you're dealt a suit, you're dealt a group of 13 cards, and almost everyone is going to have some of every suit. It's very rare to be out of even one suit, much less two or three suits. And so that's kind of like our temperaments. Most people have temperaments that are suited to a mixture of the yogas of some sort or other. And so we try to find ways to use all of the different yogas for our spiritual practices. All right, so again, Kali Puja is this Sunday evening. It's a fairly crowded event, so you may have to come early, or perhaps just you may want to stay a short time and then make room for others, or maybe some of you can come later, and hopefully there will be room by the time other people have had to leave. But unfortunately, the temple is the size the temple is, and of course it'll be online, and so you can enjoy it that way too. So we don't have a Harry Potter ability to have a room of requirement where we can suddenly expand the temple to accommodate the crowds. But we do the best we can with allowing people to come in and out and having it online. All right, let's close with a chant. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Filled with Brahman are the things we see. Filled with Brahman are the things we see not. From out of Brahman floweth all that is. From Brahman all, yet is it still the same. Om, peace, peace, peace.